I found out what one of the weird noises was. I'll talk about that later. Nothing So Well Lost, The Siege of Rhodes, 1522. This is a postcard game, obviously. Components are here. As with all postcard games, the rules are on the back in tiny, tiny print. Hardly could read it. Hardly can read it, yeah. But worse than that, my photocopier, it isn't working anymore, or printer, or whatever. It's like many things. And I'm afraid that maybe the scanner part is what's busted on it. Although I did get a faint printout of what might have been part of this. It also could have just been, the first time I run through it, something weird happens, and it could just be some extra ink or something from that. So I'm kind of worried. Well, I'm not really worried. I haven't used it for over a year, but it does cause me issues. Are problematic. So I created a little cheat sheet for myself here. In addition, we have a counter I got to make. I'll do that later. And maybe these too. This in the Against the Odds that actually came packaged with this. I don't know. This Against the Odds came with 3 games. The Rise of the First Caliphate. What the hell was it called? Apocalypse in the East. Something called I don't know, Bulk Friday, I think it was, which is by the same author that did this, Paul Rohrbaugh, and then this. So they always throw in a postcard game. Anyway, because of the particular topic of this one, and the fact that I knew I had the optional additional rules sitting right in front of me and probably won't have them again anytime soon near me, it seemed like a really good idea to get it played now. Plus, it's Thursday, kind of late in the day, already getting dark. It's not that late. It's like 4. I don't know. And I've been threatening rain all day, and I just didn't get anything useful done, of course. But I figure, let's play this, try to get it through. It'll be fairly quick. I don't have everything set up that I should. I should have a deck of cards. No, I have one in there. I don't know if that's the open one or if the one downstairs is. But all right. So we're going to have to deal with the rules on the back. But this is the main board. Has a turn record track, which also serves as a track that you keep track of these levels on. So this is like the mining level. And that'll go down here, I think? No. Yeah, I think it starts here. And that's how much the Ottomans have mined it. They have an artillery level, which is how many guns they have. That shouldn't grow. That should just be decreased over time. OAL. OAL is the artillery level. Oh, this must be... Oh no, that's the max ORL. RLs are resistance level for the Ottomans and for the Hospitallers. In order to win the game, the Ottomans have to drop the HRL level to 0, which means the fortress surrenders. By the way, if you finish all 8 turns without Rhodes falling, the Hospitallers win. Now, why this is particularly interesting to me actually has to do with Europa Universalis here, where I always kind of glom onto the Turks because they're really potent and interesting at the beginning of the game. And getting Rhodes is very hard. Actually, what's very hard is they just have a series of things that historically they did that within the game are very, very difficult to do. I've managed all of them except Rhodes. Part of the reason being that Rhodes is expensive to do and quite likely to come down to sort of a crapshoot and doesn't give you a hell of a lot. But it's an important victory point thing, and you take a penalty, even if you choose not to pursue Rhodes as like a goal. And I can't figure out how to get everything. Like I've changed, there's rules I've had to twist around and modify in EU to make it work. But anyway, so things like the Aztecs, they don't fall. The Mamluks, well, they have special, Mamluks in Hungary have special rules that make them fall more easily. And so the Turks are able to do those two major things. But then they have the Persians coming in after them and all kind of nastiness. And it's like, it's very, very hard to justify throwing in the resources you need to take Rhodes, except for the victory point bonus that you might get from it. But the other things come with the same kind of penalties and come with better advantages. All right, so the board itself is separated into these, I guess, 5 wall areas, which will each have their own force assigned to it. The Il Adam is in the reserve. I think that's an engineering unit for the most part. This scenario will also give you the Rhodes militia in there. I'm not quite sure I understand how they work. But let's take a look at the rules. You're going to need a deck of cards, including the jokers, 2 of them, and a 6-sided die. All the face cards are removed. You divide the deck into black cards and red cards, and 1 joker in each deck. The Hospitallers get the black cards, apparently. I would give them the red because they've got red there, and it really doesn't matter. And the Ottomans, the other. You shuffle your decks. You put the Hospitaller infantry on all the wall areas they belong in, the Il Adam in the reserve. Turn marker on an Ottoman mine level on space 1, because you haven't done any mining yet. Resistance levels and Ottoman artillery at 4. Both sides have a resistance. Okay. And we'll take a look at my cheat sheet here. On each turn, both players flip a card over. Whoever has the higher card has the initiative. On ties, neither player gets the initiative, and nobody gets to do anything for that flip. If the winning card is odd, the player who won gets to do an action, and then the player who didn't win gets to do an action. If it's an even card, the player who won gets 2 actions, and the other player gets 1. If either player draws their joker, it's just a pass as if it's a tie. But the second joker that comes up is going to end the turn. So it's conceivable that like nobody gets to do anything, and that would be great for Rhodes. When you get a chance to do an action, in general, you're going to take the action, you're going to pick a wall, and then you're going to do some kind of check on that action. Those are relatively complicated here. All right. The first one is bombing. Both people can bomb. If the Ottomans bomb, I think you add 1 if the, let's see, I'm not reading this right. You add 1 to the die, to a d6, if the Il Adam is in the reserve area. That's what I got, reserve there. If that's less than or equal to the Ottoman artillery level, then we get a breach, and I didn't have the effect there. If the Hospitallers go, they roll a die. If it's less than the Hospitaller resistance level, then they roll a d6. If it's even, they get rid of, I think it looks like an Ottoman artillery level. Yeah, because, yeah, it gets a -1, is what I'm trying to say there. Okay, so those are the 2 options there. Mining, this can be done by only by the, there's no counter mining, I guess. This can only be done by the Ottomans, although the Atom can do something. One thing they could do is raise their OML level by 1 point. The other option they would have is to roll a d6. If it's less than or equal to the OML, they get a breach, and the OML will drop to 1 regardless of whether or not they get that breach. Now, this contradicts something else, which is, oh, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. In addition to that, and I should have this written down, one of the resistance factors is whenever you fail a mining roll, you lose 1 point of Ottoman resistance. Okay. Assault is something only the Ottomans can do. Each breach on the board flips over and turns into an infantry unit. And then you add the combat factors of the infantry each breach on that wall. You pick a wall, remember? You add the Ottoman combat factors for that wall. You subtract the Hospitaller combat factors from that wall, and you add a d6. If you get greater than or equal to the Hospitaller resistance, you cause a hit, and these guys have steps on them, to one of the units present. I believe the Hospitallers get to choose who they lose. If it's greater than twice the HRL, then you do 2 hits on the forces there, which could knock out a unit. If it's less than the HRL, though, the Ottomans lose 1 of their infantry. Now here I have the eel has a special rule. This is during the Ottoman turn. Before you make the check, you can roll, if you get a die roll that's less than the Hospitaller resistance level, they can move the Lille Atom into that wall, thereby getting more troops there. We'll see about the Rhodes militia when that comes up. Okay, counter mining is done by the Hospitallers. So it is there. They roll a d6 plus 1 for the eel. And if it is greater than the ORL, they repair a breach. Or they can choose to reduce the Ottoman mining level, i.e. cave in one of their digging efforts. Sally can only be done by the Hospitallers. Okay, this is complicated or unreadable to me, and my glasses can't read this shit. HP can attempt to sally. Select 1 HP infantry currently in the wall section that you're going on. Roll a d6. You subtract 1 for each breach. Yeah, that's per breach, and you add 1 if the eel unit is there. If you get greater or equal to the Ottoman greater than the Ottoman resistance level, that's a colon. You subtract 1 from the Ottoman artillery. You're running out and wrecking their guns. And these don't grow back unless they're in there. If you get less than a 1, though, you lose a step off of the infantry that attacked. Okay. These are modifiers to resistance. You get +1 Ottoman resistance for an empty wall, per empty wall which has breaches on it. You get -1 ORL for each 2 breach units destroyed or each failed mining attempt. Now, ORL, trying to see what it affects. Affects the counter mining. I'm really not convinced it does a hell of a lot else. Okay. It doesn't end the game if you get that, as far as I know. Yeah, ORL can go down to 1, and there's -1 to the Hospitaller resistance level if the eel unit dies. And then on turns 5 through 8, you have to make morale checks for the island. And that is a D6 +1 per empty wall with a breach. And if that ends up greater than 4, it causes a subtraction of 1 to the HRL. Now the HRL falls down to 0, it's game over. All right, let's look at the next thing, which is the optionals. Oh, so much better. We got readable stuff. All right, we got a set of random events. When the first Joker is revealed, you roll a die, and that random event is going to take place for the entirety of the scenario. It says, unless otherwise noted, each event can occur as often as it's rolled. So I'm guessing that's the first each turn. Yeah. Okay. So it's not just the first Joker. Critical walls. The Ottoman has to create breaches on the Aragon, England, and Germany, Auvergne wall sectors before they can place breaches in any of the other sectors. Suleiman grows impatient. Once per turn, the Ottoman player can re-roll any die with a plus or minus 1 die roll modifier, whichever one he likes. If the second die roll still fails, however, the Ottoman resistance is dropped by 1, and that may be a double drop in the case of a mining failure or whatever. And then the Rhodes militia, which I have to make. If you have a set of mounted counters, this unit begins set up in the inner city reserve. The militia unit activates once per turn. Now, I don't know what that means. I think it means I can move it to a wall. The militia unit activates once per turn for free if stacked with Il Atom. It can also activate on its own or for a second time in the turn, regardless of what it is stacked with, for a normal act, for an action. If eliminated, the militia unit may not be returned to play. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how likely it is that you're going to want to spend an action to move it around, but if you've got an empty wall or something, it could be useful. So that's it. Let's get playing. I feel like wasting my exceptional artistic talents on this, so I just threw a counter on there for the militia. Okay. Well, away we go. 5 is bigger than 1. It's odd, so we each get an action. What do I want to do? Bombing uses the artillery level. That seems like the fastest way to get things done. Hey, I got a die over here. So 4 or less. Sounds like it, and we got to hit... let's go for the German. We got a 4 or less. We get a breach. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. And that's fantastic. This is the turn record track. We go over to the Hospitallers. We would like to repair that. ORL is 4. We'd have to get a 5 or a 6 to repair that, unless I move the eel in there. Now, fuck. I don't think I can move it without taking an action. So let's just try to repair that with a counter mining. And what do we need? What do we need? We need a 5 or a 6. We get that? Hey, the breach is gone. That was fun. But that wasn't a turn. It's a joker. Joker means neither side gets to do anything. We had the first joker of the turn. We get a 4. The Call of Cortugula. That's the name of this. That's what this thing is called. Admiral Cortugula gets motivated and the Ottoman Navy begins probing the harbor. If you have a set of the mounted counters, yeah, if you ordered something, I don't know if they still have them. If you ordered a game or something, you would be able to get a freebie set of mounted counters. I don't consider that all that valuable, but place the Ottoman fleet unit, or a penny if you don't, in the harbor area for the rest of the game. If L'Île Adam is in walled area, he's immediately relocated to the inner city. Add 1 to all die roll checks for the rest of the game when he attempts to relocate to an area where an assault is declared. Ignore this relocation if playing with the Rhodes militia and it's in the inner city. Okay, so I need a boat. Go, there's a boat. Fair enough. That was the first joker. Nothing happens on that activation. We get a tie, nothing happens. We get an odd for the Ottomans. Well, I mean, we bomb again. Mining is useful, but you got to get that mining level up, and it's just so much more expensive seeming in terms of activities. So, this is in reserve, so there's actually a +1 to the bombardment. So we actually need a 3 or less. We don't get anything. That gives us our dudes, our hospitalers. They're gonna do a half point. I'm gonna go run out and try to. Let's see. What do I get? -1 per breach. I have no breaches. Yeah, let's run out because I can't get less than 1, so I can't be hurt. So I need a 5 or a 6. I don't get it. Here's the other thing. Mining might become really valuable if the artillery starts going down. Okay? Tied? Even. Okay? We'll sally from a couple of different areas. Doesn't matter. 4 is not going to do it. We have to get higher than the Ottoman resistance. Oh, sorry, the Ottomans got an action there. Let's flip those back. The Ottomans get an action, they'll bomb. Same place. That'll work, right? No, that doesn't work. They have to get lower. Now I flip these over. And that will be, we sally. Okay, this is getting pretty boring. That was less, doesn't work. Their bomb is less. They'll get the breach. Okay, I think we're gonna back away for a while and I'm just gonna do things on my own until stuff happens, because this is kind of, once I do another action or something maybe. The Hospitalers got to get a couple of sallies in, and they managed to drop the artillery level. They've canceled out any breaches that have happened. And things are kind of looking bad for the Ottomans at this point. Like, they're going to have to rely on mining pretty soon. I'm still using the artillery. That's on a 1 or 2. The mining is problematic because it hurts my resistance level. That second joker. Go to turn 2. I think we're going to break for a bit while I shuffle and whatnot. Fuck around doing something. But kind of get an idea of what we're doing. Back up, charging the battery that I had in there. It's dark out already. I don't know what time it is. It's probably like 6. And let's get kicking on that first turn. The second turn. And get the cards here. Okay, nothing too exciting. period where the Ottomans managed to get a couple of breaches, but that doesn't really necessarily help, and I'm able to repair them quickly enough. The ill Ottoman is, I don't know. I don't want to take an action to move him there, and it feels like the only other way, and I think he's allowed to, the only other way to get him to move is during an assault. He has a die roll chance to get in there. Activation, I get a double for the hospitalers. I've been getting a lot of double turns. That, I managed to drop the artillery down to 1. I'm just tucking it under there to keep it out of the way. At this point, I don't have much I can do. I can't countermine against no mining factor. I'm just kind of left with a nothing. I guess I pass because there's absolutely no action I particularly want to do. There's nothing I have to repair, and I can no longer sally to any effect. It can reduce the OAL, and that's it. So, assuming I transcribed things right, and I think I did, yeah. Ottomans, I could keep rolling on artillery at 1 or less, but that's not terribly effective. And I also kind of don't want to put the Ilda Adam, well, no, because I got the Rhodes militia. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll burn and get a mining level up, and that'll give the hospitalers something to do. I don't want to fire artillery at 1. That won't work on odds. Like, my chances of getting a breach are less than his chances of forcing the breach to repair using the counter mining stuff. So yeah, this is kind of all I can do. I get this automatically every time I get an action, and then I can take the rolls as I like them, but I'm just not collecting up the points that I need to. Mining value up to 4, then I draw a joker, so we get an action. And we get a 3. Engineering Eminence Greece. Martigeno is ill. Add 1 to all hospitaler countermine DRs for the rest of the turn. Well, that sucks. That's the kind of thing that's going to... So if we were just playing with the base game, I feel like by this point, the Ottomans are in really rough shape. Even here just on turn 2. Like, I don't know. Feels as hard as the EU siege. I'm mining to the highest possible value, and then I rolled a 6, which sucks. That's a failed mining attempt. That means the mining level drops to 1, because we attempted to blow it, but we also got a resistance level reduction, which means that everything that the hospitalers try to do is going to be easier. Does anything increase our resistance? I don't think so. Uh-oh. As I rolled twice on the countermine, but it doesn't do me any damn good. Nothing does me good at this point. There's nothing for the hospitalers to do. Again, I'm positioned perfectly fine. I could move the island troops, the Il Adam somewhere, but I don't see much point to it. There's no threat. So I guess I grow my mining another 1 and hope for the best here. The second joker, there's a breach here. No mining levels accumulated. Everything else pretty much the same. That's going to move us to turn 3. Take another break, I guess. To think about these things, every time I decide to break one out and play it, you know, and it's only been a couple of times. They're just... I mean, it's not a bad game. There's not much you can do in it and whatever, but it's not a good game, right? Like, it's running at about that. Hey, if I had, like, you know, something like the Decision Games folio packages for something along this lines, which seems like about the right size in terms of counter mix. The map, you would make a bigger map, you know, so you could see more. You'd actually have rules that aren't on the back of the card. It would still be a meh game at best, you know? It's not as rich as those are. That's fine. But not that they're necessarily great or anything. But it's also like, add to the fact that it's a meh game, the annoyance of like, using the cards, the annoying little counters, the crowdedness of the map and everything. It's just like, why bother? And the thing is, you would think. I'm thinking along the lines of like Napoleon at Waterloo, which honestly is more like one of those folio games that SPI used to hand out, for free. You got a subscription, you would get a copy of that to go convince a friend to become a wargamer or something. There's no way something like this would convince somebody, oh yeah, this is the hobby I want to play. So it's only, and it's shipping, with the games and whatnot. It's only really applicable to people like me who are already in the hobby and whatnot, and it just doesn't provide a hell of a lot, and they never really do. They had one on the assault on the Huguenot, and it was like, yeah, okay, but again, I'm going through mechanically complex stuff and not really getting to make a lot of very interesting decisions. I don't know. Ready to start the third turn. I have all my magazine games and little stuff like this in a set of in a file cabinet. And it's a crappy broken one. That's besides the point. But the problem really is, I've had it in there for a while, but I spent a lot of time a year or two ago getting all the counter bags in there. And initially I put them in the back and had the games up front, and that was easier to get the games out, but a pain in the ass to find the counters I wanted. I swapped that, put the counters up front. Neither one really works. It's like, because the drawer doesn't pull out all the way, so it's like really hard to get the game folders out of where they are. And I may just go back to what I used to have, which was a bunch of boxes with the plastic baggies in them, and leave the games in the cabinet, because what I found was keeping the games just in boxes, they ended up getting damaged that way. All right, let's get started. No, I won't show you the mechanisms of the game for the most part, except if we hit something new. It's kind of something I haven't described. Now that the artillery is pretty much knocked out, right? I can't win the race on artillery. Whenever I get a double move, I'm moving the mining forward. Once it gets to 5, I make a roll for it. It's too risky otherwise. It'll start dropping my resistance, and that makes it easier for the counter mining, the repairs, etc. to work. But basically what I'm doing is I'm pumping this up, trying to get it high enough, and then trying to get a goddamn breach into play. These are the same strength as the actual units. The hospitaler resistance is at 4. So I basically would have a 50-50 chance of getting a hit. I'm not going to get an 8 on a single die, I'm kind of beginning to think that maybe I just have to take chances with assaults at this point, because the cost of moving this mining up, it takes me 4 actions to get it to the 5 space. And there's a fair chance that and then a 5th action to get the breach actually in play. And there's a fair chance that the hospitalers can just get that out of my hands. So maybe when I have a breach, I just have to go for it and hope for the best, because there's just nothing that's working on me here. My strategy, a little bit of double breaching this. However, there's still a chance that the hospitalers can fix that. And this boat is not enough. It was, what was it that fucked me up? It was this. The boat does not help me, so yeah, he gets to get rid of a breach. So all that work to get it up. Now last time I could have rolled on the 4 and had a chance for an assault, because 2 units in assault is much better, because then I'll be rolling a +3 and I could actually get the 8. Behind the lines again, and I've lost my breach. I'm at 1 mining. Fuck. Going for me though is there's nothing for the hospitalers to do until I put a breach down. So like, oh look, they win one. Great. But that means I just get to do something. If I win it, then the hospitalers get to try to repair it immediately. Joker, let's see what we get. I mean, we might get something like treachery, which can be useful. We get that Martinengo is ill. That's cool again. That's gonna fuck with his countermines. That's great. I've been forgetting to do this. Get this reroll with a bonus on it. I've been kind of holding it for, I might get a 6. Yeah, but that's every turn I can do it. Anyway, I get a chance to repair that breach, which doesn't work. Double move. I'm going to attempt an artillery fire with the first move. It doesn't work. I'll use the Sultan to give me a -1 on that. It doesn't work. Now I'm going to fucking assault. So this flips over. I lose the breach for that. But maybe I get lucky. I don't know. I do. I get a 4, which is greater than or equal to. So I kill one of these. And I guess this just stays there so that I can keep assaulting, but I could add breaches in between. There's not much that the hospitalers can do into this case. The other option is that there would be more rounds of fighting, but I didn't see that in the rules. Maybe I'm playing it wrong, but I can't check because the rules are on the back of the damn map. We have something exciting. I can put this into here as my action. I actually have 2 actions, but I've got the garrison back here, so that's fine. My militia's doing its job. What do? I start working on the mining again, I guess, because I can't fight this anymore. Bad thing happens, I've used up my Sultan. I rolled a 6 on this. That's going to drop my resistance again, right? I was mining and failed. OML, mining level goes down to 1. But the biggie is that my resistance goes down to 2, and that means that the hospitalers now are even better at their counter mining. So I'm like losing the war here, basically. If I were to play this again, when the artillery's there, I would try to set it up so that I could get an assault in relatively early in the game. I feel like I gave up that first turn before all the sallies and whatnot got me. Although, to be honest, it felt like I wasn't able to have a breach many times. There weren't many times when I never got a situation. I did have situations where I had 2 breaches, and I might have been able, like I should have concentrated fire on one location just to get 2 units in there, if I had the chance. We got the mining to 5. I was going to launch an attack over here, or get a breach there, but I rolled a 6. My resistance level is now 1. This is going to be a really long and dull game, I fear, because I've got like no chance of generating the breaches that I want. An assault against worse odds is just a horrible idea. Joker turn's done. I think I'm going to call it here, simply because I've lost my chance. Like, the thing that I learned is, yeah, you're not going to get the kind of wall destruction or whatever that you get in like Siege of Constantinople or Acre or something like that. You're not going to be able to set up the perfect situation before you attack. You're not, as the Ottomans, you're not causing enough damage that like things are getting hurt across, over time, and that the walls are actually being degraded. You've got to kind of count on, hey, I can get lucky on the card draws or whatever. But at this point, the luck is just too big a factor. Now, my resistance can't go any lower, but basically, I don't know. I mean, there's chances. I could just, because I could get a double move, get a breach, and put a, then do an assault right afterwards, and then just get lucky on the assault, get another hit. That second hit will reduce the Hospitaller resistance. It's a combination of not knowing what I was doing and playing poorly, and getting a relatively bad deck of cards. All right, I'll keep going a little bit longer, but I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to finish this. This sucks so bad. I got my mining up to 5, then got a double turn. I didn't get a double turn before that. I might have tried earlier. I roll another fucking 6. I can either Sultan this, or Suleiman it, and honestly get a guaranteed success with it at 5. And get a breach down, and then do the assault. But I was kind of hoping to use this to gain the advantage on the assault. So I think I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just drop this all the way back down and then pop it back up 1, because I've got a lot of turns left. If I get that sort of lucky flow. Now, the Hospitaller resistance, other than as a victory condition, doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. But I'm still hoping I have enough turns to be able to pull this off somehow. And that's what convinced me to keep going. Back up to a 4 before I get my double turn. I'm going to try to mine again. The Ottoman resistance is as low as it's going to go. It's not going to get any better unless there's something here. And I fail again. Fuck. But the Hospitallers aren't getting to do anything because there's nothing to repair. We got ourselves a breach on a double turn thing. Now I'm going to flip it to one of these, and I'm just going to roll it even. I get a 3, that's not good. I'll use Suleiman's impatience. I get a 4, that's good enough. That's the second hit on the Hospitallers. So their resistance actually drops by 1. I mean, that's the thing. I think the Hospitallers actually, like, everything's been going really, really poorly for the Ottomans, but I feel like they still have a chance because I think the Hospitallers have a lot of trouble holding out here. The thing with the Admiral, even though it doesn't say this is like a one-time roll, it does say it's for the rest of the game. So, and it says it here as well. So I'm guessing, that he just sticks around. For the Hospitallers, doesn't do me any good. There's no breaches. Joker for the Ottomans. I have the feeling I'm doing something wrong, but I got no way to check the rolls. Like, do these flip back over to become breaches after the fight? Is what I'm thinking. There's a 4, that's not going to repeat. I got an Ottoman success. I've got this up to 5. It can't go any higher. I've already used Suleiman anyway, for whatever that matters. Instead of mining, which the Hospitallers could fix very easily, I fired off artillery, because what the fuck. Although actually I should have done an assault again. Yeah, why don't I do the assault again? Now I'm at +1. I get a 6, that's another hit. So there goes one of them. Again, I'm tempted that these are supposed to flip over, but I got no way to check. Bumpage. I have to fix the counters so they're in the right place. The militia went in to cover this on their turn, but I still have a +1. Fuck it, let's keep going. That's a 4. That's a success. Actually, this is based on resistance, isn't it? Yeah. So that's down to a 1 strength now. Things are beginning to look ugly. Now, I could shift bigger units into play instead, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. No, because you're allowed to remove these things to replace them with to place breaches. There is a rule about this. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. But anyway, I got a double move for the Ottomans. At +2 on this, I can try to kill that piece. That's a 4. That's a success. That's another point of Hospitaller resistance. Like if these turn to breaches again, automatically, then the Hospitallers could fix the issue each time. So yeah, I just don't really know. Now I have a second action. I don't have anything great to do with a second action, to tell you the truth. I'll fire my artillery, I guess. You know, 1 in 6 chance that it hits something. I need breaches here and here to be able to place anywhere else, though. And for the Hospitaller action, we move some forces in there. Final card of this turn. That's going to push us to turn 5 here. I've kept the mining all the way up because I just haven't gotten a situation where I want to blow another breach. So if I got another breach, I would put it here so I'd have a +1 against these guys. I'm going to peek at the back of the card. In order to do that, I have to shift everything off here and take a peek. One thing I wasn't aware of here, this multicolored text is so difficult for me to read, but plus it's so small. In addition, on an activation, the HP can redeploy 1 or 2 of his units with a free move. This is a free move, to and from any walls before performing an act, but only when he wins the round. Here's this. The OP can recycle breach markers by voluntarily removing them from walls. But over on assault, and again, it's fucking green text, which can attempt to assault, flip breach markers to the WA. And then I've got all the modifiers and everything. I don't see anything that indicates that these flip back over to breaches. Kind of doesn't make sense. I feel like they should, but I'm just not seeing that. An argument in kind of both directions. One is, it all depends on what the time span is here, right? One of the possibilities, and this is going to go to turn 6, one of the possibilities is the Ottomans are entrenched on here. Now, if that was the case, there should be some ability to counterattack and push them back off the wall. But the Ottomans are kind of entrenched in whatever breach they took. And so the breach does not disappear. It's just there are troops in there. What's weird about any of that is, no matter how you do it, if the Ottomans take a hit, their unit stops being a breach anyway, right? The other way I would see it is that if the breaches appeared, that would be a longer time span. The Ottomans made their assault against that breach as heavily as they could. They have an infinite supply of troops, essentially, either way. But they're not entrenched on the wall anymore, or ensconced, or whatever you want to say. Instead, they pull back, and the breach is still there, and then it's repairable. But if they're actually lodged in there fighting constantly, well, then it does make sense that these would stay face up, except that these should be able to fight back. They should be able to push them back. Maybe, sort of, kind of. I'm not sure. As far as I can tell, and my eyes are not good enough to read these, the rules as written seem to approve of the way I'm doing it. Anyway, I'm done because battery's almost dead. Another factor which complicates this, which is the critical walls rule. The Ottoman has to have one breach in both England, Aragon, and Germany en revanche. Now, if these aren't breaches, it's like, okay, if I've breached the wall and I'm entrenched or ensconced on that wall, look, that should count. But if I'm withdrawing, I really do feel like those forces should withdraw, turn into breaches. That would make it easier for the Hospitallers to fix it. As it stands, it kind of looks like the Hospitallers are in a lot of trouble. They're down to 2. Of course, it's kind of hard for me to get an attack in, but I could get one in here with another double move operation. I really don't know. But I'm thinking if I hadn't fucked around and screwed up with the Ottomans so badly, I'd be in much better shape against the Hospitallers. Like, if I had been more careful and arranged my double moves to get me an assault at the end of them, even if it's at even odds using the Suleiman grows impatient or whatever, it would get me something. And as it stands, I still feel like I have about an even shot. Gotta go. I'm hoping to get this up and done tonight. I know I'm getting kind of close, only 3 turns left, right? Unless the Muslims or the Ottomans somehow get to win. I keep saying Muslims because of the previous game. I mean, they are Muslim, but the problem is, it's not that late, but I've been getting up stupidly early at like 4 in the morning or something. It's like 9 something now. And, but in terms of this game, although it's small and moves relatively quickly, it's also pretty boring. And so I play, no more than I do with other games and then go down and distract myself for a while. All right, let's get started on this turn 6. Big Ottoman advantage. Already we're set. We got the successful breach there, and now we're going to assault. We're at +1, but we have the Suleiman advantage available. +1 puts us to 5. That means I think we just get a hit because we need, well, wait a minute. I forgot the HRL is really low now. So this is an assault. We're not greater. Oh yeah, with the +1 we are greater. So we cause 2 hits to them, and we don't want to lose. We'll. See, here's the problem. This thing is weak. I think we'll just take that. That's 2 more. That drops this to 1. And there's nothing they can really do, except I guess, oh, I'm not actually allowed to shift unless I have the advantage from when I looked that up. I've been doing it just as an action. If we kill this last unit, we succeed. So I'm going to try to fire my artillery. Hey, that actually succeeded. I put another breach, another assault, and now I guess I do finish. I mean, unless something horrible happens. I'm at +5 on the die roll. I think that's pretty guaranteed. That's 7 hits. That's more than twice. That would be 2 hits against this. There's only 1 to be had. And that's the end of the Hospitallers. And yeah, again, unless I'm and it's possible that I'm unable to read the card. It's just such tiny text and everything. But for the rolls. But unless I'm missing something major, I think this game is likely not very well balanced. It feels to me like once the Ottomans kind of understand. I mean, I got through a couple of turns where I fucked up and got nothing done and basically wasted my artillery. I think it's pretty damn easy to get that Hospitaller morale, or whatever you want to call it, resistance, down. Now, if these things turn back into breaches, that would give the Hospitallers a chance to repair them. And that would change the matter significantly. And as it stands, I don't think the game makes sense. I think it would make sense if they turned back to breaches. What was it they'd have to do if they were holding the territory? Then I think the big thing is this critical walls would be okay as long as there's troops in the walls. I think that would make sense too. But the critical walls doesn't really make sense. But on the other hand, what it does mean is that the Hospitallers just keep pouring forces in there, and this is the easier place for the attack, which may be the intention of the critical walls, so that like you get kind of a Verdun type situation where both sides are trying to bleed the other dry. Of course, you can't bleed the Ottomans dry. They have an infinite size army, just like they do in Siege of Constantinople. All right, well, there's that game. Okay, here we are with Siege of Rhodes. What's it called? Nothing so well lost. Not a hell of a lot to say about these little postcard games. I know some people seem to collect them, and I can understand that. I collect things that I don't necessarily really like. The game itself, as I sort of discovered, I think, assuming that I've got the rules correct, is relatively unbalanced. Luckily, unlike Apocalypse in the East, it's unbalanced in a way that at least is historical. I think it's very, very hard. I think the Ottomans have a very good chance of manipulating the flow, and when they get double turns and whatnot, to be able to break through. That's assuming I got the fucking rules right, though. And that's one of the biggest problems, trying to read these rules. They've got two big problems. One is tiny, tiny text and multicolored and all that. It's not very easy to read what's going on. But I couldn't find anything that indicated that the infantry turns back into breaches, which would definitely hinder the Ottomans' chances. Also, the stock that this is made out of is the same stock that the counters are made of, unless you take advantage of their free offer. The fact that the rules are on the back of the map of the game means I have to make this little stupid cheat card to be able to even play. It would be really, really hard to remember all the different, factors that you have in this. In particular, let me look at my cheat card. I keep sealing this up and then unsealing it, because I don't know how to deal with this instead of a box. So yeah, you have a set of different actions. The bombardment action is the Ottomans' best means of damaging the walls, but they're going to lose their artillery eventually. The mining action... Wait. Bombardment says it has both. That'll be a die less than Hospitaller. Yeah, you're able to shoot back at the artillery. It's not terribly useful. I did the Sally all the time, which also gets rid of the artillery. Uh, Trying to see if the bombardment for the Hospitallers is better. I was able to get rid of the artillery really fast, though, the Ottoman artillery. It's a die less than the Hospitaller resistance, which starts out relatively high, and then you have a 50-50 chance of taking an artillery hit out. The advantage of this is you could knock the artillery down at a time when there are already breaches in your walls, which might be useful. What I found, though, was that the sallies were allowing me to, because as long as you have no breaches against you, the Il-Adam has gives a potential bonus, but as long as there are no breaches in place, you can't lose any strength points off of sallying. So it was relatively easy to get the to get the artillery knocked out for the Ottomans by doing sallies against them. The mining is only an Ottoman choice, and that is much less effective because you have to build your way, you have to build up your mining capability to where you can take a roll, or else you're going to lose some of the Ottoman resistance, which is a bad thing to have happen, but I found that I was stuck at kind of the beginning of the game situation, except my artillery was gone and my Ottoman resistance was gone by the time that I kind of figured out what the Ottomans should be doing. And even so, I was able to win the game as the Ottomans in just a couple of turns, really. And I think that's kind of the case, again, unless I've got something completely wrong. The assaults may be what I have, if I have something wrong, it's probably in the assault era. The different Ottoman advantages, especially with the expansion rules that are in the magazine. That's how they're going to win the game, and that makes sense, But that allows them to basically whittle down the Hospitaller defensive units. Now, what happens if the Hospitallers don't go defend against a breach? That's kind of an interesting question. I guess you could let that wall just fall. It's not like the Ottomans are trying to get into the city or anything. They're trying to kill the Hospitaller units where they defend. So sucking them into those breaches, that may have been actually a mistake. I might have been better off running away. No, because there's a penalty. There's a resistance penalty for the Hospitallers if there's a breach and it's an empty space. So they kind of have to throw their troops there. Yeah, okay. The Hospitallers have the countermining capability, which is not terribly useful against the mining. But and this is the thing I didn't do. I didn't use this either. That might have helped a little bit. Because I was finding myself, this is the problem. I have this tiny notation here. I don't have something that's good. This needs a better player aid than this. Something that kind of expresses all the roles, but in a nice chart form. I would find that's readable, My little chicken scratches on here aren't much better than this tiny stuff. Well, they're worse, I guess. I mean, they're less tightly packed, which helped. But yeah, I wasn't keeping all the options open. So the Hospitallers could have cut down on the mining capability. So maybe it's not as unbalanced as I feared there. The Sally was incredibly effective towards being able to get rid of the Ottoman artillery and get that down right away. But yeah, the biggie, the biggie really was, oh, the Ottoman resistance can be increased as well. Again, if it's an empty breach. I'm just looking these over. So yeah, I don't think so. The Hospitaler's resistance does not decrease due to empty breaches. But like a space that doesn't have Hospitalers with a breach in it, which it really should, I think, because that's how you'd want to win, is that you'd push Ottomans against a breach location and be able to get into the fortress, right? But instead, that actually just bonuses the Ottoman resistance level, which, that'll help them in the long run. There's no question about that. Anyway, I guess the biggest thing that I have, and this has happened with all of these that I've played, is this kind of feeling of, what the fuck's the point of this thing? I mean, I can't complain about a free little postcard game, right? I mean, I can, but, it's not something that I paid for or anything. It's not something I went out of the way, but I did cut it out, learn the rules. I don't know if I think I am now. Okay. In the end, it just doesn't provide, a fun value worthy of actually, investing the time to play the game. So there's just sort of this, hey, what do you want to do? It's not it, and again, it's not something that's going to hook somebody on wargaming. These just aren't that quality. So it becomes, I'm a fan of little tiny games that I can throw in my pocket or whatever, and this certainly fits that level. But what it doesn't manage is to give you a fun play. It's not quite big enough. It's got too many component issues, etc. To be particularly good for the person who's, again, it's not going to draw someone in because it's too much of a pain in the ass, right? And it's just not that interesting either. And then on top of that, and it's not just this one, it's the whole format, which is why I don't understand why they keep doing these. It's sort of, it's just something that, against the odds, and whoever publishes them, I don't remember what the company is actually called, LPS. I used to know what that stood for. But anyway, for people who actually, are getting these magazine games and whatever, I guess you could hand it out to someone, and give it away free at cons or whatever. But in terms of the people who are likely to actually end up with these, it's not really that great. There are better short games. You probably have plenty of them that you're not going to have to work so hard to try to be playable, right? I wanted to touch on one other thing component-wise, which is this stupid deck of cards. This came with my little mini poker chips, which are fucking fantastic. But these are actually like lower quality regular poker cards than most of the games that have cards in them have now. They're not, they're not the, I don't know, there were cards that used to be made that I remember, the sort of bridge cards and stuff that sometimes were really bad quality. They're not quite that bad, but they're worse than most poker quality cards. Anyway, I don't know why I end up wanting to play these. I mean, in this case, I was like, I don't have a lot of time. I had already read the rules once. I read them again today, and figured out how to get it in place and whatnot so that I could get it played. The only thing I have to be thankful was that it ended as soon as it did, because otherwise I would, I'd be getting up tomorrow and trying to play it or whatever, and I don't really want to do that. Yeah, I mean, it's at best a very meh. All of these are at best a very meh experience, and in this particular case, I don't know. It just seems like a waste of some money and effort to put these together and put them in the games. It's just my feeling.